Good afternoon, my name is David Buisonjé. I'm a PhD candidate at Leiden University, and today I want to talk to you about the results of our field experiment. The title of which was Less Carrot, More Stick, in which we investigated a deposit contract financial incentive for physical activity behavior change using a smartphone application. Let's start with the problem of health behavior change. What is the problem? On the one hand, we have unhealthy temptations, which are concrete, certainly attainable, and immediately rewarding, and they are at odds with our healthy life goals, such as losing weight, which are more abstract, more uncertain, and provide only a delayed reward. That makes behavior change difficult. The solution that we are investigating within the benefit program consortium is to make healthy living more attractive by introducing concrete, certain, and immediate financial incentives for healthy behaviors. So what is known about the effectiveness of financial incentives for health behavior change? Convincingly, meta-analyses have shown that financial incentives are effective for a wide range of even habitual health behaviors, and that they do not crowd out intrinsic motivation for health behavior, which is an often heard intuitive criticism of this type of intervention. So financial incentives are effective while in place, but the challenge for behavior change is how to achieve sustained effects, and the challenge for large-scale implementation is who is going to pay for this type of intervention, especially if it's only effective while in place. Looking at the financial incentive toolbox, we do not only have carrots, but we also have sticks. So the carrots have been studied extensively, their cost hinder implementation. Sticks have been less studied, they might have possibly superior effects and the potential in some forms for large-scale implementation. Therefore, our aim was to investigate the uptake and effects of stick financial incentives. Now, how do these sticks work? The proposed working mechanism is through loss aversion. This is the finding that people respond more strongly to losses than they do to gains. This graph illustrates that nicely. When you gain $100, the pleasure you derive from that is less big than the pain that is the result of losing $100. Now, looking at the literature, there are two operationalizations of these stick incentives. The first one is to use framing of what is actually a reward to mimic the feeling of a loss. In an often cited study, Patel did this. They provided participants with a 7,000 steps per day step goal, and they had a gain condition where participants earned $1.4 per day versus a loss condition, a loss frame condition where participants first were given $42 and then lost $1.4 per day. The loss framed incentive proved more effective, but it is merely a reward made to feel like a loss. The second operationalization is a deposit contract where people actually deposit some of their own money and that is used as an incentive. In a feasibility study, Butworth showed the following. Participants got a 10,000 step goal. In the reward condition, they earned £15, and in the deposit condition, they were given £15, and they were then able to deposit that £15. The effects were comparable of these two conditions, but the money in this case was still given to the participant before the deposit request was made, making it still a very expensive intervention to offer. Our study is the first to employ an actual deposit contract for physical activity. Therefore, we expect limited uptake, and we want to know if loss framing enhances the effects. Therefore, we formulated the following hypotheses. The first one, a deposit incentive will have a lower uptake than a reward, but it will be more effective than a reward. Loss frame feedback will be more effective than gain frame feedback, and we expect an interaction where loss frames are especially effective when they are combined with a deposit contract, because loss aversion in that case is most strongly activated. To do this, we recruited 98 healthy students. They used a smartphone application for 20 days. They received automatically by the application a tailored step goal based on their historic average of the last 7 days, plus 20%. If no data was available, they got a 10,000 step goal, a default goal. Proved to be a problem. I'll get back to that later. They received daily feedback, either loss framed or gain framed, and the incentive consisted of people in the deposit condition paying €10 via a digital bank transfer, in Dutch a tikkie, or they received a reward. And the design was a 2x2 factorial between participants design with primary outcomes, uptake, and effectiveness measured in participant days goal achieved based on objectively registered step counts. To illustrate the different conditions, we had to invent a trick which was the pot, which could be empty at the start or full at the start. In the reward gain frame condition, the pot was empty at the start and it filled during the intervention. In the reward loss frame condition, the pot was full at the start and money was taken out for every day that they were not successful. Remember, in both of these conditions, people are earning money. In contrast to the deposit condition, where people deposited €10, and in the deposit gain frame started with an empty pot, which filled up during the intervention, and in the deposit loss frame condition started with a full pot, emptying along the way. All participants used a smartphone application that provided them with information about their current step count on a daily basis, provided also a conclusion about whether they were successful or failed that day, whether they earned or did not lose any money, yet that's where the framing comes in, and gave them an overview of the running total, which was the pot. Now, let's go to the results. As expected, the uptake of the deposits was lower than that of the rewards. The rewards had a high uptake, 92%, the deposits about 55%. That's a significant difference, and hypothesis 1 is accepted, therefore. Looking at the effectiveness on the number of days that goal was achieved on the vertical axis in this graph, we compared the 4 experimental conditions that are on the horizontal axis, and we show that the deposit incentive is not more effective than a reward incentive. We did not find a significant difference. However, the descriptive means are in the expected direction. In the deposit conditions, on average, participants achieved 12 out of 20 goals. In the reward condition, about 10 out of 20 goals. However, this difference is not significant, so this hypothesis is rejected. Thirdly, loss frame feedback was expected to be more effective than gain frame feedback. Again, we did not find a significant difference. We found loss frames to lead to about 9 out of 20 goals successful. For gain frames, about 12 out of 20. The descriptive means, thus, are in the opposite direction of what was expected. Hypothesis 3 was rejected because this was not a significant difference. Finally, we expected an interaction, but we did not find that. So, also rejected. Now, I alluded to a problem with goal setting earlier, and I'll explain that now. 20 out of our 65 participants got the default 10,000 steps goal due to a lack of available step data. Compared to the mean of people in all other arms, they received a goal of about 6,000 steps per day, so the 10,000 steps goal was probably unachievable. Therefore, we reran the analysis excluding these 20 individuals. The results show that in this case, gain-framed feedback proved significantly more effective than loss-framed feedback. This was a strong effect, with people in the gain frame achieving about 16 goals, in the loss frame about 11 goals. Moving on to the discussion, we found deposits to be not more, but also not less effective, and that's an important finding for large-scale implementations. Deposits could be implemented as a self-incentivization tool, being free to the intervention provider. So the finding that they are not less effective is important as well. There was lower uptake of the deposits, and that could have acted like a motivational filter, leaving only the most highly motivated individuals to participate in that arm. Possibly this inflated the effectiveness that we found, so we have to be careful there. Future research should study how to increase the uptake of deposit contracts. Furthermore, we had a lack of significance for some of our tests, probably due to the fact that we were underpowered. We estimated to need about 160 individuals, but we analyzed on 98 due to a lack of uptake, the COVID situation emerging. The study was carried out in March 2020. Plus, there were some onboarding issues with people getting into the app. Finally, the most important unexpected finding was that gain frames appeared superior to loss frames. And this is in contrast with what Patel famously found. They studied, however, obese adults with a high BMI. We studied a healthy student population. Possibly the discrepancy between our findings could be explained by the congruency effect, where a student population might have a stronger approach orientation rather than an avoidance orientation. And this could have led to the fact that the gain frame was more congruent with that, leading to the found effects. Future research should, however, study this, the congruency between goal structure and incentive frames. Concluding, deposit contracts incentives are promising. They utilize the power of financial incentives for free, but they need to be studied further. Who will use them? How can we increase their uptake? How should they be framed for optimal effectiveness? Thank you for your attention. These are my contact details. I love to hear your thoughts.